Alright everyone, we start off here with the old switcheroo from the Democratic Party. Link in the description, archived of course. They're right now worried, the legacy media as well, about what happened in New Mexico a few days ago, which is that the Republicans there decided to vote overwhelmingly not to have to certify certain precinct results in upcoming elections if they didn't feel inclined to do so, if they thought that there was anything problematic there. They're tying it into voting machines, which was a perennial issue up until the 2020 election, including among the legacy media. They openly speculated, yes, it is possible, although thankfully situationally unlikely, that voting machines could glitch out, they could give improper results, they could be hacked. There could be problems with them. This was a debate that was had for more than a decade. Republicans and Democrats were wary of these machines, and we did have some situations in which there were pertinent questions about how they were designed, especially since the companies that make them, in some cases, do have deep political connections. People found this to be odd. Now they're saying, well, they're voting to be allowed to decertify election results county by county in some of these locations if they don't like the results, and this is a grave constitutional issue. Look, the Republicans are setting up to deny the future election results. And the funny part is that actually, well, first and foremost, the funny thing is that this particular legal procedure by the Republicans there is apparently legal. They're not talking about this is improper legally. They're talking about how it's dubious, how it's unacceptable and unethical and unmoral, and you're going to throw the results of the 2024 election. Interesting how the midterms are not being mentioned in the same context now, isn't it? I do realize that after the midterms, there will be Democrats. Stacey Abrams, if she loses, will be one of them, that will fail to accept the results of that election. We've gone multiple elections in a row where the losing side hasn't fully accepted the results. This was also the case in 2018 and 2016. Nobody talks about this. That's because it was the Democrats having a problem with the results. I have no doubt that in 2024, regardless of what happens, the side whose guy is not in the White House will cry foul. Whether or not the claim is valid or not requires deeper investigation. The problem is that a combination of censorship by big tech, hit pieces by the legacy media, and also ass covering at the precinct level especially, by both political parties, let's face it, makes that almost impossible. The problem is that there's no way to forensically analyze election results without it automatically becoming partisan. Because whoever's person is in there, they want them to stay in there. They don't mind if a little bit of voter suppression or fraud is what led to them being there. Likewise, the person who's out, their fans now, because of the precedent set in 2016 actually mainly, will not accept it. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Stacey Abrams, many people within liberal politics have repeatedly refused to, at least, if not certify, wink wink nudge nudge, little differentiation, at least accept the results of prior elections. Therefore, it wasn't surprising what happened in 2020, now is it? We've gotten to that hyper-partisan stage where people are not particularly interested in having a proper civic process. They're only interested in winning, and strategy, by the way, as well be damned. The switcheroo is this, though. They're focusing single-mindedly on a, you can call it dubious, but legal methodology by the New Mexico Republicans in Otero County, I believe it's called, and acting as though you can extrapolate that, number one, to a national thing, and number two, it's obviously the groundwork for throwing the 2024 election and installing Trump as a dictator. Why do I get the feeling that this kind of preemptive worrying and hand-wringing is requisite on their very real belief Trump will actually win? Well, when he does, and I do believe that's the most likely outcome of the 24 election, although again, he may not run, or another Republican, DeSantis, or even Cruz, or someone like that. When they win, if it's all above board, obvious that they've won, the voters have rejected Bidenomics, they've rejected the Biden crime crisis, the lockdownerism, etc. If they've decided to vote for the GOP, especially if the House and Senate are also in Republican hands. Then they'll start worrying about the constitutional concerns. What if they expand the court and make it more conservative? After we spent several years encouraging them to expand the court and giving them a precedent. I warned about this with regards to the judicial filibuster, by the way, many years ago. It was even warned about at the time by Chuck Schumer. He then ignored his own advice a few years later. Why do I get the feeling that they're worried Trump will win? And not with fraud, not with suppression, not with certification shenanigans, riots, insurrections, actually just win, because the voters have massively rejected the premise of what's happening under Biden and realize things were genuinely indeed better under Donald Trump. With his technical incumbency, if he runs for the primaries in the Republican Party, he will effectively win on day one. There is nobody who can stop him. If he runs against Joe Biden, I believe he will absolutely crush him in a rematch. I think that the orange man bad thing will have worn off by then. People also have recency bias. They won't be thinking about January 6th. They'll be thinking about last week's gas prices. It will be more clear and fresh in their mind. The Democrats will then cry foul, and they'll say, this is why Trump won. We won't accept the results. It'll be the Democrats voting to not certify the election, possibly. You know that that's a situation that's not even that unlikely to happen. Big Tech, by the way, will never lift a finger to prevent those disinfo claims of election fraud. It won't happen. Just like with 2016, you can claim that Trump was never legitimately elected in 2016. You won't get banned from any mainline tech site for saying so. Only with 2020. It's the only one in all of world history. In fact, there are elections, sham elections all the time in third world tin horn states. You can question those all you want. You've got elections that are questioned by the losers all throughout the developed world as well. Europe happens, other elections in the US, Canada, etc. In Canada, there's always a problem because their particular voting system gives Trudeau absolute authority, even though he got 38% of the vote or something. I don't know. Their system is a little bit fucking screwed up. I'm just going to say that right out. But it's going to be an attempt potentially by the Democrats to deny the 2024 election. When that happens, and when you see BLM and Antifa rioting and stuff and burning Wendy's, it will not get labeled an insurrection. Big Tech will not crack down. The legacy media will say, we have legit questions. There's a legit grievance here because of this bill that was passed 2-3 years ago. You know that that's likely to happen. It's going to be hilarious, too, when the shoe is on the other foot. All of those cries of suppression and fraud and so forth will be accepted and tolerated by the powers that be. The facade will be a little bit more exposed as the curtain is drawn back just a little bit further at the back of the puppet show that we call U.S. politics so that you can see the blank cement wall behind it. That's about all. Peace out.